welcome to the fourth video in this How to Code on Roblox series. In this video, we're going to be covering conditional statements, so let's get right into it. To show this off, I want to create a part in Workspace, and that's all we'll do. We'll just insert a part. Now let's insert a script and delete the default line of code. Go ahead and create a variable to that part. And now let's get into the actual conditional side of this. So a conditional statement is basically a way to run code if a specific condition is true. So if we type out if condition, whatever that condition is true, then we can run this code here. So if we create a variable, let's call it value, local value equals 1, right? We can come in here and say if value equals 1, then run this code. And just like in the last video, it's using the conditional operators. So you can do greater, equal than, all that stuff. But for now, let's just check if it equals 1. And if it does, then let's change the part, that brick color to be brick color green. All right, and just like on my conditionals on loops, I like to throw in parentheses around it here as well. Completely optional, just what I do. So now the code is going to say, it's going to define this variable value and set it equal to 1. The conditional statement is going to say if value equals 1, which it does, then we're going to run this block of code, which will turn the part green. And when we run it, the part turns green. Now let's say we set the value to 2 and run this. Now the statement is not true, so this code will never run, resulting in the part just staying the default color. All right, so that's the basics behind a conditional statement. Now we can also do other things like throw in an else here. And an else is when this statement is not true, then it's going to default to whatever's inside of here. So if we go ahead and copy this line of code and instead of changing it from green, we change it to red and run this, the part's color is going to be red because we're setting value to 2. And this first statement here, we're checking if value equals 1, which it does not, then so it doesn't, so it's not going to run this code, else run this code, which is what it'll end up doing. So if we run this, it's going to turn the part red. Whereas if we go back to value up here and set that to 1, and then this first statement will run and the part should be back to green. So that's else. Now there's one last thing you can do with this, and it's called else if. So we can say else if, and then it'll take another conditional statement here. So value equals 2, then, and then of course we can add our else statement after that. And so if the value equals 2, then we can change it to blue. All right, so let's go ahead and change our value to 2 here up top. And so it's going to say if value equals 1, it doesn't. So then it's going to go down here and say else if value equals 2, then which it does, then it's going to run this code, which will turn the part blue, and which it does. Now if we go back to 1, it should run this first statement, it should turn the part green, turns the part green. If we set it to anything other than 1 or 2, if we set it to 5, then it should run on this last else statement here, which will turn the part red, which it does. One last thing to mention with that is that on the value here, like let's say we set it to just a string value with a username, right? So it's going to say if the value equals 1, well IntelliCon does not equal 1, also does not equal 2, then it's going to end up running this last line of code again, which will turn the part red. So that's just important to know. Now let's say up here, we don't have to just use numbers with comparing. So we can say if value equals IntelliCon, then we want to run this code. And the value does equal IntelliCon, so it's going to turn the part green, which it does. Now if we change the value to username, the value does not equal IntelliCon, the value does not equal 2, so it's going to run this last line of code, which will turn the part red. So that's a basic overview of conditional statements. It's a short video, but I hope you guys understand. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.